Okay, so next off, I'd like to introduce Willie Black, who will be speaking on sustainable housing and direct heating, district heating.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. I've taken note of some of the points that the other speakers have spoken about, and I think when it comes to the working parties, the breakout rooms and things like that, there's some continuity or some linking, or the different comments that were being made about, safe houses, but houses that can breathe. The whole question about not enough housing. I had a look today at a thing which was a memory stick, and I'm a local. We're gathering the history of North Edinburgh, archiving it and whatever. And we had an anti-poverty conference in 2012 in Craig Royston School, and we had everybody, all the good and the great were there, and Owen Jones, all those people, and we came up with a charter that was accepted by the council overwhelmingly. They voted for it. Even the bloody Tories voted for it. But yet we've come back in 2021 to the same issues that are here. Edinburgh used to have 60,000 council houses. They've got 19,000 now. So that gap of no building, and I read somewhere with the Blair government at the time that everything was great, economic boom, before the 2028, they built no what I would call not social housing, council houses. They built no council houses in Britain for the whole tenure of their years in government. So we have people to point the finger at, Boris Johnson, yes, but all the way back. I think it was shocking when I was reading Shelter's thing today, not because Shelter wrote it or whatever, but there was 29,000 people in Scotland, or houses, that were people who were made homeless. 29,000. There's 10,000 people in temporary accommodation. The councils across Scotland broke the law 3,000 times in trying to accommodate people and failed. Families were homeless, and your example, Robin, was right. You were a year on somebody's sofa. 219 days in temporary accommodation. And we had a fight last few years to try and change the council, the Edinburgh Council. We occupied the building. We occupied the full council. They had to cancel the council meeting, and because we were all singing in the corridors and whatever. Direct action was taken by occupying some of the housing offices, particularly here in North Edinburgh, to try and get the right accommodation for people. And we occupied or picketed some of the worst landlords out there in the system to try and raise it. And so the council went ahead. And I think that what we're talking about is that 613,000 people, households, live in poverty. So we are fighting on all fronts, and one of them includes the question of housing. So campaigners, housing charities, trade unions, political parties, we need a Bill of Rights, we need human rights, and we need to build something like 40,000 homes. And that really needs to make, that needs unity, but it also, and that's what I took from Maddie, unity in action. And we, in Another Edinburgh as possible, need to come up with the basic demands that people can unite round, and then to bring people together, campaigners, trade unions, political parties, housing charities, and whatever, to push in the same direction, to give those people who are the barriers for how we build more council housing. Unless we tackle the question of more council housing and get the housing stock up, get the council houses built on a scale that I read one time that Harold Macmillan in the 50s The Tory government built over 300,000 houses in a year. 300,000. We're talking about 40,000 in 5 years. We need to demand the impossible. Those people who say it's not possible, we need to be fighting and saying, we demand the impossible. We're demanding an answer to the question, and no, but we can't just do it alone on the question of demanding houses. We need to have communities that Malcolm talked about. We have to have the services close to people so they don't have to get into cars to go to recreation or to enjoyment. I remember when I first came to Pilton in the 1950s. I didn't come. Actually, my mum carried me inside. And I was born in Ferry Road Drive in the middle of West Pilton. And I lived in Drylaw and Muirhouse. And my first experience as a young adult with my then wife and my new child, we lasted 2 weeks in a house in Leith before we were chucked out because they didn't realise that we had a child. So the protection then was rubbish, and the protection now is rubbish. Maddie is absolutely right. What's happening is the council cannot cope, and therefore starve the cash, end up doing the very opposite, which is to keep people away from housing, to gatekeep, to only, begin to house people when it's absolutely they can't duck and dive anymore. So what we need to have is a rounded view of what we're trying to build. We're building something in the region of 900 houses at the present moment. Sorry, that's Boris on the phone. So what's happening is that we're building 900 homes down in Muirhouse, but that is a model which is unacceptable. We fought for and we tried to change and pressurised, but I was told that, Willie, we're never going to build those ghettos. Well, I was born in a ghetto, if that's what they want to call it. I've lived in communities, and right now in the pandemic, I'm glad I live here. I'm glad I don't live in Barrington or somewhere else. If I was living if it was possible to live in poverty in Barrington, because we have pulled together to feed people, to give them respect, and we need to be demanding that the housing is future proof. So we need it passive, but we need good design. Somebody once said, I wrote a book, I think it was Andy Whiteman, saying the poor don't have lawyers. Well, the poor don't have architects either, unless these architects work with communities and deal with it. I'm involved in a project, and I'll finish on this kind of argument about the future. Scottish Water came to a meeting that I was at and started to argue that they have a project of combined heat and power to draw heat from the sewage system that they look after and maintain. This is about £1 billion, and they've already committed a design team and the rest, and we can then have combined heat and power, but without it dealing with fuel poverty, without giving people heat and drawing in, and instead of using gas and fossil fuels, then we need to incorporate that. And I don't know if housing at the present moment, because I don't actually see it other than on a small scale, combined heat and power being incorporated. I don't see solar panels on every roof. I don't see how we're going to deal with the crisis or the climate unless we future-proof every house that we do at the present moment. So we should be demanding the impossible. We should be about saving lives. We should be about saving jobs. And we also should be about saving the planet. And hopefully, another Edinburgh possible, working and bringing everybody into that tent it's possible then to talk about putting pressure on the council, putting pressure on the Scottish government, and linking up with other cities like Glasgow, Dundee, Aberdeen, and whatever, to talk about a different kind of world, a different kind of future, a different kind of Scotland. And I'm glad that we brought together some of the campaigning groups that are around at the present moment. The Greens have a meeting tonight, a Zoom on housing. Live and Rent in Muirhouse have a hustings tonight, and obviously they gave their apologies for the meeting. And I've just had a text saying, "Are you coming to the meeting?" But that's not going to be possible because I'm here, but that meeting will be a success anyway. So we need to bring communities together and fight for a different future, a vision, and hopefully, as part of a sequence of meetings coming up in the next few months, we will end up before the council elections next year with a package of demands and a vision for another Edinburgh as possible and another Scotland's possible. So I'm glad that everybody is contributing, and hopefully we can take up what some of the other speakers were saying. All right.
Great, thank you, Willie. Thank you. I'm honestly really glad that you've picked our meeting to join instead of the other ones that you've been invited to. A lot of the points that you said, really do hit hard. I agree with you. It's not just an Edinburgh issue. Like when I was living in Midlothian with my mum, we were in temporary accommodation for 5 years, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And when they finally got a placement, it was a 2-bedroom house, so there was no way for me to stay. So that's when I ended up being extra homeless and moving back to Edinburgh. So it's a whole wide scale thing, and I think you're completely right. And it's really good that we're all coming together and saying what needs to be done.